Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week. So keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter, ThunderCast_pod, and listen to us anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast. And of course, again, if you're watching right now, you have already found the ThunderCast YouTube channel. And we sure would appreciate it if you're watching and aren't subscribed. Please hit the subscription button so you can check us out every time we post some content. It's Jed and it's KD, and we are back one more week. Well, let me do it this way. We are back. Because if you've seen the title of the episode, we are in, and we're going to get to that here in just a few minutes. I don't think if you're a Herd fan, you're left pondering what the hell I'm talking about. I think at this point, we all know what that means. We got a big week. It is a big week in Thundering Herd Athletics. Lots of championships, lots of seasons winding down. We're going to get into all of it. But right now, we got to get a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
Jed, it is great to be back with you for another week. Very exciting week in what we saw unfold across the Herd universe. How is the week going for you?
It's good, man. Busy time. Of course, Marshall Athletics starts to wind down. So does my kid's school year. I think I mentioned last week, which means chaos ensues because now we're trying to fit everything into the final few weeks of school. But it's all good because summer's gonna be here. Things are gonna settle down for a little bit. So it's good, man. It's good.
Gonna be here. Summer's gonna be here. It was 94 degrees at work today. Thank you very much. It was hotter than the gates of hell, as per the norm here in the Sunshine State.
Summer gets here just a little bit later than down there. Just slightly.
Yeah. Well, look, we've got a big slate of things to talk about this week, so we may as well get into it. It will not be a true 5 things. We got a little bit extra for you this week, but we might as well get started. So let's get a word from ignite.link.
And now, here are at least 5 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by ignite.link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team.
Jed, I know you can't see it behind me here because it's actually on the floor, but if there's any weird noises that you hear, it'll be my dog behind me sleeping and snoring. Like I'm the only one at the house right now, and she's usually like out into the house, but can't have that, right? Got to be near the only human in the house. So there may or may not be some weird snoring in the room. I don't know if the mic will pick it up, but if it does, hey man, that's what it is. Let's kick it off with the number one thing this week. Herd softball is in the NCAA tournament. They fell in the Durham region this year. Had a couple of projections. One was sending them to the Norman region, and one sent them to the Durham region. And we ended up being the number 3 in the Durham region. So we'll play the first game against number 6 seed Arizona on Friday at 2:30 p.m. This marks the 3rd time in program history that the Herd has made it to the NCAA tournament. We've talked about it a couple of times throughout this season. First time was in 2013 and then in 2017 with then player Morgan Zirkle, now head coach Morgan Zirkle, leading the Herd to the NCAA tournament. Other teams in the regional, aside from the Herd in Arizona, will be Duke and Howard. For those unfamiliar with the format, it is a double elimination in the regional, unlike the SBC tournament. So Marshall is guaranteed at least 2 games, but those games will be played until – I'm sorry, let me try that again. So Marshall is guaranteed 2 games, but the games will be played until one team moves on to super regionals the following weekend. How about that for the Herd?
Man, I'm really glad to see this. I mean, for a multitude of reasons, but especially because and we'll talk about this at Around the Herd, just the exit from the Sun Belt tournament. Yeah, not what we wanted, not what we expected, not what they wanted or expected, but the resume speaks for itself. You know, we talked about over and over and over this entire season the RPI, you know, the quality of the wins, you know, the breaking of records, and just all of these things that point to a very, very good, very, very strong softball team. And them getting the snub, if they were to get the snub from the tournament, I think would have been very, very unfortunate, and not a wise or good decision from that. So I think it's good they got it. They deserve it. They deserve to be here. And I'm going to channel my inner KD here and say, why don't we just go on a little win streak?
Why don't we just win the whole damn thing?
Right. But this is awesome. Of course, I mean, title of the episode, this is huge news, man. Love it. Glad we're there. Let's make up for that unfortunate loss and, you know, make some noise.
Yeah, it feels a lot like women's basketball. Early exit from the tournament. We thought we would get a deeper run. I mean, I sat here last week and told you you've got to feel like it's a disappointment if you don't make it to the championship game. And we didn't make it out of the first game. You know, the offense didn't show up again, and that's been the bugaboo for the latter part of this season. No run support, or very little run support, and we're not going to win many games without some run support. And these bats were popping all year long up until the sweep of Coastal Carolina, and then it kind of fell off a cliff. Run support, by and large, went away in a big way. But I will say this: I am really glad that the selection committee took into account the entirety of the season, because this team was really good for a really long time. And they're still really good. It's just the bats are a little silent right now. That's the missing piece from the formula of Herd softball. And if they can capture that again, then they're going to be a dangerous team to beat. And the RPI, I think, it just feels, it's a gut feeling. I don't know. It feels like the RPI is what got them in the tournament. Because how often do you see a mid-major falter in the last part of the season? They were a 500 team to close the season out, right? Yeah. I mean, that's not going to do it for you in any tournament at all. But they were a 500 team, a mid-major team that got an at-large bid, right? The Sun Belt ended up putting 3 teams in the NCAA tournament, which is huge, none of which for the conference champion, which is wild to me. But I think the RPI and the body of work is what got them the nod. The selection committee said, this is a good softball team. They're one of the top in the country. They deserve a spot and an opportunity. So if they find the offense, they can win some games. It would be great if they at least were able to win one, maybe get out of this, round, fight for the opportunity to get to the super regional. That would be really cool, man. That would be really, really, really cool. Only the 3rd time in school history that you're in the NCAA tournament. It would be great to make some history and go farther than any other Herd team has done to this point. I just think I'm still in shock a little bit that a selection committee treated a mid-major the way that ours was treated, because usually it's really easy to go, nope, they're not that good. They were not that great down the stretch, and that's all we're going to look at. And they didn't do that.
Yeah, to your point, how many times have you seen that where a really, really good team just doesn't win their conference championship, makes it to the championship game, doesn't win the conference championship, and just like gets the snub, because
it happened like 3 years ago with Marshall. Yep. They were really good. 45 wins, lost by a run in the championship game. Didn't get an opportunity at the NCAA tournament. And it was because one of the reasons kept being mentioned was the very, very, very low RPI. That's what it was.
Yeah. Yep. So a team that's obviously winning and doing good and, does very, very well in their conference, the conference tournament, like you said, losing by 1 still does. And and we could sit here and talk about this all day, but that's the kind of the recurring theme with mid majors is that right there. They just, it's hard to get that respect, especially when it's deserved. Just because you don't have SEC or Big 12 or Big 10 next to your name.
But fortunately, we play in a really good softball conference.
Yes, we do.
So even taking one on the chin here and there in the Sun Belt Conference doesn't make your RPI fall off of a cliff. It's not the end all be all because you had a bad couple of weeks, because it's a really strong conference. But that being said, they're always, it seems like selection committees are always looking for a reason to not let in a mid-major. Like, is there a way we could possibly get a high major school in this slot any way whatsoever? And I think Marshall was just too good. The resume spoke for itself. The performance spoke for itself. They were just too good. You couldn't discount that. And the last comment I have on this is how freaking awesome was the video of them watching the selection show. And, they're all watching, like, kind of like, like
stressed,
border stressed, right?
Yeah.
Stressed, borderline shaking here. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's like they just all erupt. And it was a great moment. Such a wholesome moment.
Very cool moment.
Such a wholesome moment. And you and I were talking before we hit record about how, like, we're both big fans of The Office, like, quote that all the time. And of course, what did I post? It's the thing of Michael Scott where he's just sitting there and he's like choked up, and he's like,
yep.
That's what I felt like encompassed what I was feeling like, I was like, man, good for them. Like, good for them. All I am is just a fan. I don't play softball. I don't have a kid on the team, like I got no affiliation with that program other than I talk about them into a microphone and other people listen to me do that. And it was such a great moment, man, and such an awesome moment for Morgan Circle. Do it as a player, led her team there, her alma mater there as a coach. 2 of the 3 trips to the NCAA tournament have involved Morgan Circle. And I think that's not by accident,
Yeah, not by accident at all. And she has proven, along with her staff, that, the last few years, this has been a very good, dominant softball team consistently over the last few years. And so that speaks very, very highly of her commitment, her talent as a player, talent as a coach, and her ability to recruit and put together great softball team. So very happy for them, man.
Me too, man. And one last just quick shout out to Allie Harrell too, another Herd softball alum on that coaching staff. It's a special moment. Allie's been with the Herd as long as since she came to the Herd, so this is a long road to get to this point for her too. And I'm really glad that she's a part of it. All right. Number 2, big news on the stunt front. Small news first, big news second. Small news. I found out by accident, by breaking of this story, that Herd Stunt has a Twitter account. So you can follow them at Herd Stunt if you want to. We were follower number 10, by the way. So are in early on that. But the big news, the big thing is a head coach was hired. We were told, remember the timeline came out just a couple of weeks ago, and it was this summer they were going to be trying to hire a coach. So ahead of schedule on the stunt front, Evan Richard, or Evian. I'm sorry, man. This is really tough for me. Evynn. Evian. Richard has been hired as Marshall's first ever stunt coach. She comes from Cal Baptist, where she was an assistant coach for, get this, let's talk about domination, okay? Across any sport for any team at all in recent NCAA history. Let's talk about that. Cal Baptist and their stunt team, 6 consecutive national championships in stunt. What? She will be formally introduced as the new Herd HC at a press conference on May 26th. Wow.
Not a bad resume, I'd say. Wow. Especially for a program starting for the first time, 6 consecutive. That's she's been around winning, right? So there you go.
Yeah, it's not just. If you're gonna do it, right? If you're gonna start the program, you might as well just go full bore and let's go poach the national championship coaching staff if we can. And
right.
Cool. We were able. I don't think you can start, much better than that. You go get somebody to lead your program that has been a part of a national championship winning program. Now, I don't know if she's been there for all 6 of them. I won't speak to that, but at least one, right? Because she was on staff. So you like to think, hey, he's probably responsible for recruiting a lot of those players or some of those players or athletes to this stunt program. I can't say I don't like it because from the get-go, you went out and hired a championship caliber coach to lead the program. And what more could you ask for to get the thing started?
Right, exactly. And like you said, if we're going to do something, you got to go full bore. I mean, we don't sponsor a sport well, let me say we shouldn't, which I don't think that we do, but we shouldn't sponsor a sport unless we're, committed to trying to win and compete at our level. If we're going to, start stunt, we want to win stunt. We want to compete in our conference, and however that works as far as, what conference what we're going to be affiliated with or however that works, we want to win. And we've proven time and time again at Marshall that, we play for championships. And there's been times where, we've dropped the ball, and there's been long periods of time where we've dropped the ball there, but that's the goal. And so if you're going to start a program, well, go hire somebody that can help get you there, who's been around winning and been around a successful program, who can bring those pieces here and build a successful program. It may take some time to get the recruits, and I don't know how you recruit for stunt and how all that works, but give it some time with somebody who knows how to what a championship program looks like, and can take it from conception to where it needs to be a championship caliber program.
Yeah. For all the talk, at least from our side, about stunt so far, it's been about adding roster spots for female athletes. That's what it's all been centered around, because that's what kind of the talk was coming out of the athletic department. But let's not forget, we want to freaking win. You don't want to sink all the money and the investment into a program and just not be able to compete. And it all starts with the coach, obviously. I mean, that's where it has to start, because you don't have a team unless you recruit the athletes and can develop those athletes and all that kind of stuff. It's sports 101. We don't have to get into that. But Marshall could have went in a bunch of different directions, and they went straight to the national champion, the 6-time defending national champion, to find the leader for their program. Find me something wrong with that, and then I'll listen. But for right now, for the way this news is broken and how early it is in the process, find me something wrong with that, because I can't find anything wrong with that particular piece of news. Number 3, another bit of news surrounding, again, potentially the next program to take a big leap, and that's women's soccer. And how do you take that big leap, Jed? You go out and recruit the hell out of the world and see what you can bring to Huntington, West Virginia to win. Yep. Chris Grassie's done it. It's worked great. Rafa Samoza's trying to do it, and we'll see how that works out if we have another, program rebuilding year, year-over-year win increases. That's what we're looking for. But women's soccer had a myriad of signings over the past week to add to the roster. Sol Taboda Martinez is a defender, comes to us from LSU, hails from Barcelona, Spain. She was a freshman last season at LSU. Romina Olmedo is a goalkeeper from the Uruguay national team. And Florencia Saavedra, a midfielder / forward transfer from McNeese State, originally from Santiago, Chile. And she should be a junior for the Herd this year. And then late breaking this afternoon, Delfina Lombardi from Bahia Blanca, Argentina, is also a member of the Argentinian under-20 national team. So 2 members out of these, 4 or 5 maybe new recruits to the Herd represent their respective countries on their national teams. And, 5, I think it's 5. I don't know. I ripped off a lot of names there. But big week of recruiting for Rafa Samoza and women's soccer, man.
Yeah, people that, play in the SEC the first year and come out of Barcelona, Spain, playing for a national team. I mean, these are mediocre players, right? Like, no, man. Like, this is that Coach Grassie tree, that Rafa's come from, man. When you can open up your recruiting from, a regional area or national area to the freaking planet, you're going to be able to find some talent, and he's been able to find talent, and bringing in these international players, man, is what has really helped our men's team be the success that they are. And it's really going to help this women's team be the success that they're going to be. And man, what a bunch of talent that we're bringing in. I haven't done any deep dives on any of these players, but it's where they come from, where they've been, who they play for. They've got resumes that speak for themselves, and they will be plug and play assets to this team come fall.
I think more than any other sport, you better be able to recruit the world when you play soccer, or when you're coaching soccer. It's the number one sport in the world, right? Not necessarily in this country, but it's the number one sport in the world, which means there are millions upon millions upon millions of people that play this sport for decades, right? From like youth sports all the way up through, and these national teams and things like that. And you have to be able to get out of the region. You can't just try to compete with recruits from West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio on a national stage. Not that we don't have great players, because there have been in-state players that have played for, the Herd and have been great, and players from Kentucky and players from Ohio. But I'm saying, like, if they were the best in the world, every team would be here recruiting them, right? So you have to be able to recruit the world. And that's a formula that has worked for the men's program. And I think it's the blueprint, and you follow the blueprint and you get enough of those pieces, and it will work here too. And I mean, 2 out of the 40% of the names I just ripped off are on national teams.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. If you're good enough to rep your country, you ought to be good enough to rep the Herd, I would think.
One would assume, right?
One would assume. All right. So I understand it's not like a straight line, but there can't be too many bends in that line. If you're playing at that high of a level, I feel like we want you. I feel like you can make a difference for us. And I feel like you can make the Herd competitive for a Sunbelt championship, if not more. So it's a good week for Rafa Samos and women's soccer. Big week.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a team, like we said, we want to get more wins. And Rafa was able to do that last year. I think, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but I think, this team, it's Sunbelt championship or bust this year. I think for them, like that's going to be the goal. I think getting to the NCAA tournament is going to be as a part of that, right? You win the conference, you go to the tournament. And I think that's what we want. I mean, that's what we want to build here. I mean, we've done it successfully with the men's side. I think, especially as Rafa goes into year 3 here at the helm, I think that's now the goal. We got more wins. We had a winning season. We had some good wins against some good teams. And I think this is the year you try to put it all together. And I just, I think he does. That's just my prediction here, May 13th. I think he does.
Well, what's wrong with that? At some point, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. And it feels like there might be enough pieces in place to where they can compete with the other best of the Sun Belt.
Yes.
Right? I mean, how far this is what gets me is that I don't know this stuff. How far away or how big is the gap between where the Herd is now and where the top 1 or 2 teams are annually, right? Is it that big or is it pretty close? I have no idea. Is this the difference to where you don't get an opportunity to say, oh, Marshall's a real sleeper team. You just play them and you go, damn, what is this Herd? Yeah. Like that's what I'm hoping for, because I just don't know how far the difference is, and you can look at things like football, for example, I don't know. It's just easier for me to go, okay, well, we should be better than this team because of this, and this. Doesn't mean you'll win the games, but I have a better idea of how much better or we are versus another team, and I don't know that for women's soccer. I don't know what the other teams in the conference are bringing to the table as well as I do the other teams in the conference on the gridiron. And I don't know those that great either, but we just think we have a better idea. I would love more than anything for Rafa's team to, finger quotes, come out of nowhere and win the championship. But we see that coming out of nowhere means a huge recruiting week, annual win over win totals increasing. Like, that's not out of nowhere. That's incremental building to where you're getting to the point to where you're going to make a run. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're looking at, and again, I don't know the teams. This is something that I should know, and I don't, and I need to follow it more. But we saw how they performed in the spring league. And I don't know where UK ranks. I think they're a pretty decent team on the women's side. But you take UK, you basically win out your spring league, which is just exhibition games. You're bringing in more talent that wasn't available during the exhibition, and and again, you can't read too terribly much into it. But the fact that we were competitive and I think we only lost one game in that spring, I think bodes really well for what's going to come in the fall. You add a couple of really good pieces, and that's the thing. In the games that we lost, we were really just a couple pieces away. Now, how do we compete in the NCAA tournament? I don't know. I did watch a lot of the women's soccer games last year, conference games. So I don't know how we stack up out of conference against the top echelon. But I think, I would be very confident putting money on the Herd at least making it to the championship game, if not winning the championship game this year. Granted, barring injuries and things like that, because I think we were just a few pieces away last year. So Rafa does his thing, can fill those. I'm very bullish on the team.
Well, I mean, it helps to be optimistic, right? And you admittedly are a soccer family, right? So you would have far more knowledge than I would have, even from a casual standpoint. Like I don't. You say, well, I haven't done a deep dive into this roster and into this team, but just from watching what you see versus what I see. You say, oh, I like this strategy, or I like how they're executing this, or you see that better. I don't really pick up on that. I've said over and over and over, I don't know what I'm watching, but I know it's really cool. When it's like, when something unfolds and it's like, wow, I didn't see that coming. How that worked out really well. Like, yeah, they set that up like 3 trips ago. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. Sorry, man. Number 4. Excuse me. Let's talk about Herd volleyball, because the commitments keep on a coming. Volleyball picks up a transfer from Lily Howell, a 6'2" outside hitter, listed as a freshman on Charlotte's 2025 roster. Had a decorated high school career in Middletown, Indiana, where she was a 3-time All-State, 4-time All-Conference, and All-District, 4-time Conference Player of the Year in 1A/2A. A 1A/2A Star Press Player of the Year, and won the state championship and, hold on, 2 national championships as a high school player. So you got to think that might be a pretty big pickup for Herd volleyball. And also, I thought there was another one, and there was another one. I went back and looked. Kaia Carvalho signed with the Herd as a Cal State Fullerton transfer. So she's coming from Cali to West Virginia. Might be a little culture shock there, but coming all the way across the country from Rolling Hills, California to Huntington, West Virginia. So 2 pickups for volleyball this week as well. Lots of movement across a lot of these teams here. Some rosters are starting to fill out a little bit more. How about Herd volleyball adding 2 this week?
Hey, very cool, man. We haven't heard a ton out of volleyball lately, because it's been mostly about this, the spring sports, and football obviously takes up a lot of the fall the off-season recruiting things. But man, really cool. It seems like two very, very good pickups for this volleyball squad. Doesn't hurt that you pick up a player who's been around winning. We talked about that earlier with the stunt coach. Like, man, when you've been around winning, it's hard to put your finger on it. I've been around it enough in sports that I've played to at least know what that feeling isn't when it comes to winning. But there's something about when you know how to win a game and you've been around that, man, that's infectious. And you're not you can stay cool under pressure in those tight game situations. I don't know. It's that X factor. It's hard to describe it, but when you're a winner, you're just a winner. And you find ways to win when you're that type. And so, it's always good to pull people in that come from that culture of, we win. And
I agree. And I think what you're trying to put your finger on maybe is when you're a winner and you make others elevate their game a little, because, they want to catch that feeling too. It's like when you're around, I don't know, some folks that, when you are around folks that are like achieving, you're in the business world and you see like peer businesses or something like that are like, hey man, I want to be at that level or more. Or how did you get there? Or whatever. And you see their preparation, or you see some of the things they're doing, you try to emulate that. Same deal. You show up to practice and somebody's not taking a rep off, but you're used to taking a rep off every 4 or 5 reps. You're like, I'll just pack one in, it's my turn. I'm going to take it easy. And, your championship caliber players who are used to winning at a high level understand, like, you can't do that. Like every rep is an opportunity to get better, and you have to treat that as such. And I think that becomes infectious, like you're saying. It's like, all right, well, let's do this thing. Let's be about something. Let's pool our talents together and try to be about something this year. And that's not a slam at Marshall volleyball. It's just in general we're talking.
For sure.
Get a bunch of people that are used to achieving at a high level around, and they want to keep achieving, and they want to push each other to achieve more and more and more. And I think that's the infectious behavior. So number 5, Jed, Herd Athletics General Manager Mike Valentine, great dude, by the way, is headed to the NACDA Administrators Mentoring Institute. Valentine started his tenure with the Herd in April of 2023 as a Senior Associate Athletic Director with an emphasis in oversight of equipment operations, a role he maintains today as he manages Marshall's partnerships with Nike and BSN Sports. Valentine also provides the oversight over strength and conditioning, sports and nutrition, and is the sport administrator for Marshall football. He'll join Athletics Director of Facilities Andrew Brown, another great dude, at the Institute as we announced that back in January. So 2 Herdsters heading to the NACDA Administrators Mentoring Institute this year. Very cool opportunity for Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you get a chance to do, that professional development and things like that to get better at what you do, man, that's always great. Because a lot of times, man, I just feel like, and I don't know if it's, I'm not in the inner workings of Marshall and things like that, but I've seen just in my walk in life, a lot of institutions, a lot of times, or businesses kind of forget, you get so stuck in the day to day of what you do in your job and how you do your job that you don't really go out and try to learn, and get better. How can I better my process? How can I better, how I do things? And any chance you get to take that time, set it aside and do professional development and work on your craft, it's improves you as a person, improves the lives of the people around you because you've enhanced your ability to improve your processes or how you do things and things like that. So very cool, man. That they get this opportunity, and they're already doing great things for the Herd, and going to come back and do even more great things.
Well, and as good of an opportunity as this is for these guys individually, they get to bring that knowledge right back to Huntington, and it's going to overall benefit the Herd, and that's the other side of that coin. Yes, they will put more tools in their tool chest, and they will be better at what they do. And if they ever want to go to another stop, they've got more weapons in the arsenal. But in the meantime, these two great assets to Herd Athletics will remain with Herd Athletics, and we get the benefit from all that stuff too.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, man, I'm not kidding. Like, I've had so many interactions with Andrew, and Andrew's a great guy, and he is a busy guy. Imagine being in charge of like the facilities and stuff. There's a lot of facilities around Marshall, you know what I mean? And I've had a handful of conversations with Mike. It's normally on a game day when he's going like 1,000 miles an hour. And, you know, I've got to get an opportunity to talk to him for like 10 or 15 seconds. And it seems like that anyway. But he's a great guy. These guys we have quality folks in our athletic, our, I don't know what you call it, the exec team. I don't know if they're the exec team, but, you know, leadership, Marshall leadership. They're good people, lots of good people. So. Number 6, Jed, we talk about track and field, honestly, a lot for good reason.
What, they made a thing this week?
No.
I'm surprised.
Oh, yes. they made a big thing, and it was not just one player, one athlete, one anything. This is probably one of the coolest things that I have had the opportunity to talk about. And when I saw the graphic, I thought it was a misprint. But we're going to talk about this. We talk about them all the time, beating like times and records and re-breaking records and all that kind of stuff. But they absolutely obliterated the community service hours record. The men's and women's team had a combined goal of 1,319 community hours this year. I know that's an oddball number, 1,319 hours. I'm sure it has some meaning, but whatever. That in and of itself is pretty impressive, lofty goal, over 1,300 hours of community service. They completed 2,035 hours of community service this year.
Wow.
More than 700 hours past the goal that they had set for themselves. Wow. That is a cool thing, man. That is the thing. That is the coolest thing that I've talked about in a minute.
That is awesome, man. I just, what's so cool about this. Hey, you get a call there. Hey.
They can wait.
What's super cool about this, man, is the fact that we talk about all the time the culture around Marshall and the sense of community. And what the town of Huntington means to Marshall and what Marshall means to the town of Huntington. And athletes, when they come in, a lot of times we recruit athletes that aren't local to here. We get as many as we can, and that those are always special players and always special stories. But, you know, we get so many athletes that aren't from around here. But the level of buy-in that we get from student athletes just writ large sometimes is just fascinating and very unique to Marshall. And here it shows here. It's surely they knew when they hit their goal of 1319 that they were done. Surely they knew that. But they continued to volunteer. They continued to be part of the outreach. They continued to participate even when it was done, right? Even when it was like, well, it wasn't just check a box, I'm done. This is, I checked the box, but I'm also going to keep doing this. Mm-hmm. On top of going to class and competing and all the other 20,000 things that they have to do, blowing that out of the water, man. What a very, very cool thing. Just speaks to the culture of Marshall and the sense of community that the student athletes feel, with each other and with the community as a whole, man. Super cool.
For sure. Of all the things I think that Marshall alums like, myself and probably folks that are listening to our show, weekly, or even if they just caught it for the first time, but you're a Herd alum. I think that's the thing that really sticks with you the most, above the wins and above the losses and above the championships and the records and all this thing, is that you bought in to our home. Like Huntington is as much Marshall as Marshall is Huntington. They are intertwined and inseparable, and you cannot have one without the other. It cannot happen anymore. There may have been a time at some point when that was a thing, but it's not a thing anymore. We are intertwined. The Marshall and Huntington, the relationship is it's unparalleled. It's not like any other college town in their college. Yes, their college, the university of other college towns, is important to them. But the way that we are intertwined is way different than anybody else, any other two cities and universities. So I think that is what resonates most with the fans is like you come here and you buy in and you care about giving back and you care about being out in the community and you understand that like the kids in this community, you're a freaking superhero to them.
Yeah.
I mean, like I wasn't around, my elementary schools and things were so far away from that type of thing. There would never have been an opportunity for like the herd track and field team to stop by my classroom as a 7-year-old, something like that. And you're like, this is awesome. Like this is awesome. So I think that's one of the things. I love the wins. I love the highlights. I'm thankful for them and all that stuff. I'm thankful that athletes enjoy being there, but I'm really, really appreciative of the fact that they buy into the community and they give back to the community. And they're not just here to take, but they're also here to give and leave an impact, especially in this day and age of transferring is so easy and players come and players go, but there are still a ton of players that care about where their feet are right now, and their feet are standing on soil in Huntington, and that's what they care about. And I think that is above all the best part about what Marshall and Huntington have, that relationship that they have continually year after year and generation after generation of athlete. The people care, the kids care about being there. And as long as we got that, we got a fighting chance, at winning.
Hey, we've always punched up, man. And I think that's a big part. I think that's always a big, it's been a big piece of it is it means more here. It means more. And that has to account for something. And it does. I mean, we do a lot with a little, and I love it, man. I love being the underdog. There's something about being the underdog. You root for him. And then when you come in and just knock somebody in the mouth and knock them off their feet, dude, that's just, it's so much fun. It's so much fun and it feels good. And I think that's part of it is because it means more. So you've got to, and not for every player, sure, but for I think a lot of it, just there's a purpose, right? And when you have purpose, it's that extra 10% that you might not give in any other occasion, but you do in that moment to catch that pass or to kick that goal or whatever it is and put you over the edge, man. I think that's you have to account for it.
In this situation, this strikes me as more that thing like, we had a really rough meet this weekend and we're all dog tired and we got, class or whatever this afternoon, but we're going to get up and we're going to drag out and do some community service first thing in the morning. And we don't, we're going to do it and we're going to be great when we get there, but man, it's going to be tough to drag out of bed after that grueling meet and after the travel and after all that stuff, but it matters that much. We're going to get up and we're going to do that. So, Jed, that's all the things that I have this week.
Hey, I never do a thing, KD, but I'm going to call an audible and I'm going to give us a 7th thing. All right.
Okay.
All right. Because this is hot off the presses and it's something that I think we should at least mention for those big soccer fans. So the 7th thing this week is the NCAA Division I Men's Soccer Oversight Committee has adopted legislation that would move Division I men's soccer to a 2-semester playing season. This would be effective August 1st, 2027. So not this coming season, but the following season. Now, the proposal is still subject to review by the Division I cabinet at its June 23rd, 24th meeting. But if it seems like this would be adopted, what would happen is you would be playing over 2 semesters. What I know so far, again, I've not put any research into this. What I know so far, the new model would keep the current 25 contest maximum, which is where we sit currently. No more than 25 contests, but it would spread the championship segment across the academic year. Teams could play up to 18 contests in the fall, starting in late August, and then run through the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And then the spring segment would begin in mid-February, with teams able to play up to 10 contests before the NCAA tournament, which the College Cup would then shift to the spring instead of in December where it currently happens. So thoughts on that, Katie?
Well, I mean, that's a lot to drop on somebody right now to have thoughts, but lots of questions. Lots of questions. Yes, reactions and questions. it leaves me with a lot of questions. Like, how will the portal work? How will that affect, if somebody graduates in the fall, are they going to be able to continue playing in the spring because they were on the roster, but they have just graduated? And, if somebody transfers out, are they going to be able to play for their new team in the spring? If somebody transfers in, are they going to be able to play for the herd? What about high school early enrollees? What if a guy wraps up or a girl wraps up in a fall graduate in high school? We see that with football all the time. They show up early so they can practice in spring ball. Well, are they going to be able to be added to the roster and immediately compete in the spring season? There's a lot of questions that are revolving around that. And to have such a short turnaround, 1 year to get it ready, that's bold.
Let me throw another wrench in there for you. Something I didn't initially say is conferences will have the ability, from what I've read, to choose when they do their conference championship tournament. So you could have in theory, if a conference decided to run their conference championship or the conference tournament in the fall, you could have a conference champion competing in what I would assume to be out of conference games in the spring. So the conference could have their championship running in the spring or the fall. I don't know how that's going to work, but that was one of the things that was listed.
I don't know. That brings more questions. What if you play your conference slate in the fall, the first part of the season, and then you have your conference championship game and you win that, and then you're the conference champion and you dominate. Let's say you go undefeated in the fall season. You win 18 games in a conference championship, and you go to the spring and you get blasted and you don't win a game. Are you still going to make it to the College Cup because you are conference champion? How the hell is that going to work? This is what I mean. There's a lot of avenues here that I don't feel like were properly maybe explored. Like, well, what if this happens and that happens? There's probably a lot of scenarios that need kicked around. Maybe this is that time every week where I go, hey, I'm available to ask questions. So just, if you guys didn't think of that, I thought of that, in about 30 seconds of initial reaction, because I'm always wondering, how does this affect the herd? And will we be able to continue going to the College Cup, Yeah. So the initial fan is going to go, oh, it's just like basketball. You play some of your season, then you're off for Christmas and Christmas break, and then you're back in the spring and you finish your season. But it's not necessarily going to be that way. What if you play your whole conference slate and conference championship in the fall? What's your spring season? Just out of conference games to bolster your RPI, or, try to compete with teams that are already probably going to be tournament teams to give yourself a better opportunity to get into the tournament? That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, how that would play out. I'm like you. I've got a lot of questions. Now, this just came out today.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's going to be there'll be a lot of activity on social media and a lot of questions get asked. And I assume as we move along, we're going to hopefully get some answers to those questions and figure out how that's all going to work out. But
well, I mean, all those scenarios have to get talked about, discussed, because they're very real. It's not like I'm pulling stuff out of thin air like that would never happen. Everything that I just ripped off to you are things that could happen and that could impact the quality of your College Cup, So
something that I will say, I think one of the things that it's doing two things. One, first of all, I think spacing out time between games would potentially give you the ability to heal up and give you that adequate rest that you would need. For those of you who have never played soccer, soccer is a grueling sport from a physical fitness standpoint, because you never stop. And if you watch Marshall play, I mean, we don't sub a ton either. I mean, we don't sub a ton, and it's not often. So when you're out there playing, there are guys that play entire matches, 90 full minutes of constantly running, sprinting, jumping, contesting for the ball. It's a very grueling sport, athletically and with your cardio. And when you're playing games and practices and things like that constantly, and you get an injury, you're out the season. Whereas now you would have the ability, if someone gets injured, I mean, that injured person could come back and play in the spring. So it gives you time to heal and keep your team more, more cohesive potentially. I could see that, especially that's what really hurt us last year was injury. It was a huge component to the fact that, I mean, we still, heck, had a tournament win and did what we did, but we were thin by that point. So I could see that part. I see that, and I think that's one of the arguments here is it helps reduce the wear and tear, on a player, in that condensed format of just the fall. So I can get behind it. And if you remember, Katie, in 2020, when we went, well, it was in 2021, the COVID year, when we went and won a national championship, I remember thinking, man, wouldn't it be so cool if the College Cup was in the spring? I had that thought because the weather was, I know it's North Carolina, but, playing soccer in December versus, soccer championship in April, or May or whatever it would be, I thought was a better, that was kind of a better time of year. So I can see some of the advantages to it if it can all work out.
Well, I'm not crapping on the idea. These are just questions that I had. They're very real.
Yeah.
I see the benefits of things like you're talking about, and recovery and player safety, and the ability to potentially have good teams remain good because they can have a chance. Some of their players can have a chance to come back from injury and they can be at full strength come tournament time. But also, you can't tell me that this is not also an effort to get a championship in the spring so you're not competing with football. You get more eyes on your product and you're not competing with football in, conference championship time and early bowl games or whatever might be there. December is the wrapping up of football and championships and the beginnings of bowls. So you move to the spring, you get better weather, you get an opportunity to capture more of an audience. I mean, come on, I get it. If they didn't think that their player safety is one thing, injury recovery, a whole nother thing. But as an added bonus, if they have an opportunity to make more money off of it, then they're going to move it there. Yeah,
for sure. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. Walking into the vet in April for a game or March for a game,
I'm pretty sweet, right?
Not going to complain.
Yeah, it might still be chilly, but at least the sun will be out.
Right.
It'll be warm on your skin, but it might be cold, cooler. But anyway, something to keep an eye on, something we will potentially revisit again. If this policy becomes the way, then maybe we will. So, but if you got nothing else with this surprise, you got another surprise thing in the other pocket.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, let's say we go around the herd.
Yep, let's do it.
And now, Layer 1 Solutions, your experts in business connectivity infrastructure, takes you around the herd.
Well, KD, as we kept talking, we're still winding down, but we still have some programs that are still wrapping up seasons, and so there's still things to talk about. So we're going to start with track and field. The Sunbelt Track and Field Outdoor Championships are Thursday through Saturday. Mobile, Alabama. And, we've talked about several athletes all season that will have a great chance at podium finishes. So I really look forward to seeing, what we can do. I'm looking for some personal bests, hopefully for some, maybe some Sunbelt records broken, and getting some of these athletes podium finish. So we've got that coming up.
Yeah, I was perusing the social media before we recorded, as I do a lot, and they're posting. We're on site. We're out here. We're doing our thing, in preparation for tomorrow's start of the championship run. We got to have a couple. We got to have a couple, man.
Absolutely.
Like, give me some gold, man. We got to come back home with some hardware. You know what I mean? So can't have this season just all be about rewriting the Marshall record book. We got to come back with some championships. And you mentioned it earlier, we play for championships. When I was a student, that was the motto. It wasn't something we talked about. That was the motto. In Marshall, we play for championships. It was everywhere. It was on billboards. It was on the in-game announcements. It was on the graphics. That's what it was. So you want to get back to that again, you got to bring home some hardware. But track and field's a pretty good program to do it. They've been on the verge of greatness and been great a lot of the year. So now's the week you put it all together and come back with something shiny.
Absolutely, and I would be surprised if they don't, and at least in some form or fashion. They've just had some individuals that have done very well, and then they've been performing well as a team. So let's see it happen. All right, we're going to swing on over to baseball. Took 2 of the 3 from ULM at home over the weekend. We talked about this last week. We had a, hopefully we were wanting to sweep. Didn't get that, but at least we took the series. Won the first game 7-4. Now Bryce Blevins unfortunately was unable to secure his 21st program win in that game. However, but the Herd scored 5 straight runs in the 7th and 8th inning for the comeback win. They won the game Saturday 13-10. They were up 10-2 before ULM kept chipping away to tie it up at 10 before more late inning heroics gave Marshall the victory on that game. Then dropped Sunday's game 7-5 as their 9th inning comeback just fell short on senior day. So Bryce unable to get his 21st program win, but we did take this series. So thoughts on that game before I move on to the next thing?
No, it was nice to finally win a series, and what turned out to be the final games at the Jack this season, because I hope you're going to mention that. And I've got thoughts on that.
Yeah.
But, 2 out of 3 I'll take. Maybe a little momentum heading into the Sun Belt tournament, but still not in a great spot. I'm not in a great frame of mind. I'm not feeling uber confident, right now, because it seems like always a way, and the microcosm of that was a 10-2 win, and you chip, and it's 10-10, and you need late inning heroics to get to close one out. I mean, when you're up like that early, it shouldn't be that way, but that's college baseball. Bats ignite at the blink of an eye. The next thing you know, it's 10-2, and a couple innings later, it's 10-10. That's just the way it goes. Yeah. But I'm just not feeling super duper confident, and I would love to be just made to eat crow. I really would, because I like the job that Greg Beals does, and I know those boys are playing their asses off. They're just coming up on the wrong side of these games more often than not here lately. So this is never an indictment of them or the effort or anything. It's just like, for whatever reason, they're not winning the games. And really no time like the tournament to start winning some games. We proved that last year. We proved that last year. You start winning games in the tournament, and everybody starts perking up and going, what the hell? Who the hell? What the hell?
Right.
And that's what I'd like. I'd like everybody around the league to start going, what the hell? Who the hell? What the hell?
Yeah.
Why is Marshall winning? We don't like Marshall winning. We, but we do. We like Marshall winning. So
we love it. It's great. We want more of it.
Kind of why I'm here, to enjoy the winning.
As you mentioned, man, on Tuesday, the last game at the Jack was supposed to be on Tuesday. Virginia Tech was supposed to come to town, but they decided that they didn't want the smoke. Last time that we played them, we kindly crushed them 13-4 back in when we went to their place, and this was in an effort to protect their RPI.
100%, and I think it should be heavily considered by any type of selection committee, any team that does this, any team, not just Virginia Tech, but any team that does this. Yeah. You have to be held accountable for this crap. If the game's on your schedule, play the freaking game. Unless there is a weather element that keeps you from traveling, unless there is a team-wide sickness that you just will not be able to healthily play a game, you should be held accountable for this on several fronts. Because Marshall lost ticket revenue, concessions revenue. They lost money because they chose to back out of this game. And AD Gerald Harrison came out and said, we appreciate everybody buying tickets. Unfortunately, yada, yada, yada. You're going to get refunds. I get that. That's what you have to do. Marshall lost revenue. Virginia Tech ought to be on the hook for that revenue. They ought to have to cut the Herd a check for backing out of a game that they had agreed to because they wanted to protect their precious RPI. Period.
Right.
And any other team that does that should also be held to that same standard. This is not an attack specifically on Vatech. It's an attack on any team that does that. If you are a tournament team and you are good enough to go to that tournament, why in the hell are you afraid to play a baseball game?
Play the games, man. Play the games that are on your schedule.
If you are not if you are afraid to go play a road game because you think it might be detrimental to you, don't schedule the game. Don't schedule the game.
Yeah.
Because I saw somewhere else that this is like the third time that Virginia Tech has canceled a game with Marshall, and the vast majority of them are return games to Huntington. So
absolutely,
when people show you who they are, believe them. You know, because they're more than willing to get that game in Blacksburg. And then you went up there and beat the snot out of them, and they're like, well, I guess we just won't go back to Huntington because we don't know. That's not cool. So just don't schedule them. And for people that go, well, yeah, just power this, power. Nah, don't give me that. Don't give me power league crap. That's a football term. That is not a baseball term, basketball term.
No.
People translate that into other sports, but it's not. That's a football term. There are plenty of baseball teams around that you get a game from on a midweek that will honor the contract. You know, so just quit scheduling them. And I still think that they should. I don't know how you would enforce it. If it was just a handshake agreement, yeah, we'll play a game. If there's a contract, hopefully there is some financial restitution in the verbiage of that contract. But if not, I don't know what you do other than start putting that in your, midweek contracts. I don't know what
you're gonna have to, especially like a school like them where they've been backing out all the time. Like you just can't. If you're gonna schedule with us, you come here first.
Yeah, well,
and then we'll go to you or something like that.
I won't even require that. I'm just like, if you don't show up, you're going to have to pay for the game, and make it whatever a sellout crowd, whatever the tickets are for a sellout crowd. That's how much you're going to have to owe us. That doesn't take into account concessions and things like that. But I get that. But whatever it is, whatever. Like we'll go to your house and we'll play, and if you don't come to our house and play, you're going to pay because these teams. In those leagues, if they got one thing, it's money.
Absolutely.
If they got one thing, it's money. And if they got one thing that they can definitely, if you got enough gumption to back out of a baseball game, then that ought to come along with a check.
Yeah.
That simple.
Absolutely.
It's that simple. It can't be, and I'm not saying that it is. I just don't know. But it can't be penalty free. It can't on any front. It has to be taken into consideration by a selection committee for possible omission of baseball tournament. And then it has to be taken into consideration by like the NCAA and the other university that you just stood up for making them lose money. That ain't cool. You wouldn't just show up for a football game and expect to not have to pay, right? So maybe they do pay and I just don't know about it, and that's fine. But for everybody else that's wondering that also doesn't know, right? The hundreds and thousands of other Herd fans that are like, hey, are we at least getting some money for this game? Because we don't know. Damn it, I hope we do, because it ain't cool otherwise. We took a final home game from the Jack. Just left. It's like, oh, by the way, the game you guys just played, that was the last game. Sorry.
Yeah, hate that.
That ain't
I
cool.
hate that.
That ain't cool, man.
Not at all.
That ain't cool. All right, I'm over it now.
Tell me how you really feel, Kitty.
I just did.
Well, we've got one more series left to play. The Herd's traveling down to Texas State for their final 3 games of the season, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The Herd is currently in a 3-way tie for 7th in the Sun Belt standings, with one of those teams actually being Texas State. With a bunch of teams within a couple of games of moving up or down several spots, Marshall could finish as high as the 4th seed or left out of the top 10 that make the tournament. So it's pretty wild. It reminds me of I'm getting flashbacks of basketball.
Well, I mean, you don't know a lot of moving parts, so you don't know who else has got to win and who else has got to lose. But basically, I'm going to say if you go get swept, you're out.
Yeah.
I mean, that stands to reason. If you could, finish as low as 10th, that probably takes into account you got swept. So don't go get swept. And I know that's real easy for me to say because I don't play the games, but I think the best thing to do is go down there and try to get 2 out of 3. If not, sweep the series, ensure your spot. Everything's on the line, and they're fighting for it too. We're tied in the standings. So no matter what happens, one of these 2 teams is going to be above the other one, right? They're not going to come out of this tied. So one of these teams has taken 2 out of 3 and is going to move up in the standings, and the other one's going to hope that they can slide into that final spot, or will they get left out altogether? I mean, there may be a scenario where one of these 2 teams gets swept and still makes the tournament, but why risk that? like, because there is no tomorrow. Because if you go and you get swept and you don't make the tournament, you're out. Your season's over. You're done. So you might as well throw everything you got into this 3-game series. Throw it all.
Yeah.
Throw it all in and try to get
nothing.
And I don't care if you're dog ass tired going into the tournament. At least you made the tournament and have a shot to go in and maybe play against another dog ass tired team and come out of the win in the battle of dog ass tired teams. Who knows?
Right.
But you got to throw it all at Texas State right now, and send them out of the conference with a home sweep. Or a road sweep, whatever.
Great. Yeah.
Swept at home. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. So hopefully that we go down and perform, because I'd hate to see our season end there. Because it'd be awful.
Get your final home game pulled out from underneath you and then swept on the road, or lose the series and get out of the tournament, and all of a sudden your season's over. That would really suck. That would suck.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep it on the diamond, but moving over to softball. Man, just one thing to talk about right now. Well, two things. One, they got their NCAA tournament game coming up, which we talked about, but we got to talk about the stinging portion of it. Man, nothing was going their way, dude. Got shut out by Coastal that first game, 6-0. And since the Sun Belt Conference tournament is a one-and-done tournament.
Yeah, crazy.
They just go in, didn't even score a run, and out they are. So I don't even know what else they're saying about that game other than
it sucked, but ultimately it didn't matter because you still get in that large bid, and that's the bigger piece of the pie, right? The whole goal was, not the whole goal, but a big part of the goal was to go to the NCAA tournament. Yeah, we wanted to raise a Sun Belt Conference championship trophy. Obviously, that's always the goal. But it's a pretty nice consolation prize to not do that and still get into the NCAA tournament. And I've been trying for the last couple of days to figure out, what do they call that? Does the NCAA tournament, softball tournament, have a name? Like the basketball tournament's called the Big Dance. Do they have a name for the softball tournament?
I don't know.
I don't either. Well, I was thinking, what do you call it, man? I don't know, because I couldn't come up with anything clever, and I don't know. But it needs a nickname. It needs a moniker. Everything has a moniker these days, and they got to have one. And I was thinking, all right, can we call it the Big Engagement, because it's played on a diamond and diamonds and rings and all that kind of thing. It's pretty lame, but that's the best I could come up with. But it needs a nickname. The NCAA softball tournament needs a nickname. So anybody listening, you got to put those in the comments, and maybe we can get something started. Yeah. Maybe if it doesn't have a name.
If it doesn't, what do they call it? I don't know. I was going to try to Google it real quick, and I didn't.
Right.
But
throw those in the comments. If you've got a really cool blockbuster name for the NCAA softball tournament, throw it down in the comments, because I've been racking my brain for a couple of days, and I can't come up with anything cool. I just can't. Mm-hmm. And I'll start calling it that if it's something good. And who knows? Maybe it'll travel across the interwebs, and next thing you know, there it is. Your idea is out there for everybody to call.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love it.
I know. So I'm not too worried. I was bummed the day of, but selection day, all that went out the window, because I thought, man, what a way to go out. What a way for your season to go out. You had all this stuff and all these individual things and these team things and all this stuff, and then you just don't even score a run in the Sun Belt tournament, and you're out, and it's over. And I thought, God, if this is the way it is, it's going to be bad. But
what a very anticlimactic. But hey, we're not. We got a great opportunity to just win a few games. That's all we got to do. Win a few games.
Well, but before winning the games, it was the boom, seeing Marshall up on the screen in the Durham Regional. Yeah. That was what it was. It was like, boom, it ain't over. So now, why don't we just go on a little win streak?
Let's go on a win
streak. Just go on a little win streak. Win about 4 or 5 games. Get into the super regionals. Maybe who knows? Maybe. Yeah. Maybe a little farther. We got the talent.
Yeah. Just take it all the way.
Why not us, right? Why not us?
Right. Why not? You got to have that. You got to have that attitude.
Somebody's got to win. Why not us?
Mm-hmm. Well, man, that is all I've got for Around the Herd, unless you got something else.
No, I do not. This was a fun, man. I explored a lot of emotion in this episode. Yeah. I got mad. I got happy. I was all over the place. This was a really good conversation today. I'm glad we had some things. Huge recruiting weeks for several of our programs. Man, big time stuff. So I got nothing else. This was a fun episode. Jed, if you've got anything, let me have it. Otherwise, hey, take us out of here.
That's all I got, man. So whether you see us at the Cam, whether you see us at the Joan, or whether you see us down in Durham, North Carolina, cheering our ladies to their third NCAA tournament appearance in the history of the program, wherever you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the Thundercast. We'll see you next week. Later.